Following is a lecture on Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 9, Text 6, given by His Divine Grace Srila Harikesa Swami Vishnupad, recorded on the 13th of February 1983, in New Radhakund, Sweden.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 9, text 6. Yatha kasha stito nityam Vayu sarvatra go mahan Tatha savani bhutani Mattani chupadaraya As much as Akasha stita, situated in space. Nitya, always. Vayu, wind. Sarvatraga, blowing everywhere. Mahan, great. Tata, similarly. Sarvani, everything. Bhutani, created beings. Mattani, situated in me. Iti, thus, upadaraya, try to understand. Translation. As the mighty wind, blowing everywhere, always rests in ethereal space, know that in the same manner, all beings rest in me. Purport. For the ordinary person, it is almost inconceivable how the huge material creation is resting in Krishna. But the Lord is giving an example which may help us to understand. Space is the biggest manifestation we can conceive. The cosmic manifestation rests in space. Space permits the movement of even the atoms and on up to the greatest planets, the sun and the moon. Although the sky, wind or air, is great, still it is situated within space. Space is not beyond the sky. Similarly, all the wonderful cosmic manifestations are existing by the supreme will of God. And all of them are subordinate to that supreme will. As we generally say, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus everything is moving under His will. By His will everything is created, everything is being maintained, and everything is being annihilated. Still, He is aloof from everything, as space is always aloof from the activities of the atmosphere. In the Upanishad it is stated, it is out of fear of the Supreme Lord that the wind is blowing. In the Gard Upanishad also it is stated, by the supreme order, under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the moon, the sun, and the great planets are moving. In the Brahma Samhita this is also stated. There is also a description of the movement of the sun, and it is said that the sun is considered to be one of the eyes of the Supreme Lord, and that it has immense potency to diffuse heat and light. Still it is moving in its prescribed orbit by the order and the supreme will of Govinda. So from the Vedic literature we can find evidence that this material manifestation, which appears to us to be very wonderful and great, is under the complete control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This will be further explained in the later verses of this chapter. Yatha stito nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan Tatha sarvani bhutani mattani chupadaraya. As the mighty wind blowing everywhere always rests in ethereal space, know that in the same manner all beings rest in me. So we also talked about this verse last night, inasmuch as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated everywhere, and everything within this manifestation, both what we call cosmic manifestation of this material universe and the spiritual manifestation, is resting within Krishna, Just like pearls are strung on a thread, or just like the little flecks of dust are situated within the network of the cloth. And just like the air or the atmosphere of every planet is situated within the space, so similarly everything rests in Krishna. So Krishna is the most important ingredient in existence. Unless you've got Krishna, you've got nothing. You may try with different philosophies, different speculations, different understandings to know about the Supreme, or what is the Supreme Force or Supreme Cause or whatever. But unless you come to Krishna, you are nowhere. Because it is not possible to understand anything unless one understands Krishna. One can argue unlimitedly about things. He can argue about all kinds of things. By tarka or argumentative process, somebody can argue about what is right, and the other can argue what is right, and they'll go on arguing day and night, but that will not make right. The fact is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can argue all you like. At death, he's still going to kill you. You may argue that you are this or you are that. You're still going to die. And when you die, you're still going to be put into another body. Whether you believe it or not doesn't matter, if that's what's going to happen. People, they always like to bring up this argument, I don't believe. The belief is never something that you have to have in order to exist in this material world. You didn't believe you were going to be born maybe again. But here you are, born again in another body from the previous lifetime. Your belief has nothing to do with it. The most amazing thing about this system of existence is that your belief is the least important thing in it. But somehow Maya makes everything backwards. And your belief becomes very important to you. You think, it doesn't exist unless I believe it. God doesn't exist unless I believe it. They say God has no existence until I believe it. So, actually, God's existence is there. It is your existence that is in question. There's like sometimes people used to think, well, whether deity is God or not. And once we answered a long time ago, deity is the only living personality in this room. And his body is living personality. Our bodies are dead matter. His body is Satchidananda. Our body is dead matter. That is impossible to understand by logic and reason. Logic and reason would have you believe this body is life. But, of course, if you really apply logic and reason to the body, you'll find it's not life. It's just a bunch of elements. But then if you really get into it again, you'll find everywhere it's life. Every cell there's life. But then again, at the moment of death, it's all different again. And all that life there is now all dead matter. So that would lead you to believe that it was always dead matter. But that there was an extra ingredient in there. So one may look at deity and see stone. But actually, the deity is pure consciousness. It's like the opposite thing is there. This body seems to be life. Actually, it's dead. Deity seems not to be life to the materialist. Actually, he's the real life. Because you cannot ascertain what is reality, what is life, what is actuality with senses. When it comes right down to it, you can only hear from authority. This is the most impossible thing for a speculator to accept. That ultimately he can't understand anything with his senses. Who is this? David Hume, philosopher, saying this? All reality is subjective. Therefore, there's no objective or absolute reality. For him, that means probably that everything is just a big impossibility. Is it? No, he didn't even go that far. If he did, he would probably end up with a complete havoc in his brain. But we understand it very clearly. Of course there is no objective reality in this world, because everything is depending on senses. My senses are different than your senses. His senses are different than his senses. His senses are different than the senses of this flower plant. Anyway, when it was a plant, his senses are different from a bug. His senses are different from a pig. His senses are different from a bird. Everybody's senses are different. Therefore, everybody views everything differently. Therefore, there's no objective reality. So why is everybody wasting his time all day and all night to create an objective existence of this creation by sensual perception? You know, when we say imperfect senses, what we are meaning to say is not only do your senses make mistakes, but that they cannot perceive an objective reality. Because what you see something to be, I'll see something different. You may look at deity and see stone. I may look and see Supreme Personality of Godhead. We may argue about it. But I see what I see, you see what you see. How do we argue about that? One may see different things and see different things. One may look at a girl and see sense object. Another may look and see servant of Krishna. It all depends on your consciousness. Therefore, whether you may be a human being and have some basic similarities. For instance, we may all agree that certain things exist. But how they exist or the details of them, we may all have different actual opinions. Just like philosophers have trouble because we use words that we've all commonly agreed on the meanings of. But have we? Do you really know what the other person is talking about when he's talking about something? Even just using the same exact words, two people may come up to an exact different conclusion. You may talk and the other one goes, yes, yes, and you go, yes, yes, and at the end he says something completely opposite than you do. Because you understood the same thing in completely different ways. Philosophers, really, when they get into it, they find out that people don't even mean the same thing when they talk about words. And in fact, because it's on the basis of emotion and concept, they can't possibly get to the same point. And you can't even understand if they are at the same point. Because you can't understand what that word means to that person. Huh? Everybody has a different feeling, a different understanding. Now this is all mental platform garbage. You don't have to worry about it if you're not following it. The whole point is that everybody sees everything differently because we all have subjective senses. We see what we want to see and we hear what we want to hear. Therefore, don't bother. Forget about speculative process. It won't get you anywhere. You'll never understand anything except that which you want to understand. Speculation gets you one thing only. A good feeling that I have speculated. That's all. It gets you nothing else. It doesn't get you truth. It doesn't get you reality. It doesn't get you existence. It simply gets you a good feeling because you're a materialist. I'm not accusing. I'm just speaking to you as a general mass of people, especially one creep we just met in Berlin. Because you are a materialist and you have no intelligence, you will accept your speculation as very valuable. But no one else cares about your speculation. Two materialists talking to each other. He's bouncing something off of his head and the other one's bouncing something off of his head. Nobody cares what the other's saying. No one cares. Everyone goes away thinking I was right. And everybody's happy to speculate. See how wonderfully I speculated. That's the only thing you get out of speculation. That feeling. How wonderfully I speculated. And then 2 minutes after you have that feeling, all the pleasure's finished. There's no longer any pleasure from that. And you're back to the mind grinding away like some monkey on the machine, you know, the organ grinder machine. The man stands there and the monkey's going. The mind is doing that all the time. So, this is the only thing you get from mental speculation. By speculation, by empirical process, you get nothing. And that can be proven. Absolutely, you get nothing. That can be proven. When a scientist is told these things, he understands also that he's not understanding what he sees or seeing anything that means anything. But they have, because they want to be great men, they have created a closed network of perception and knowledge, whereby what they say means something to a certain degree, and they can be known as great persons because look what they have done. But actually speaking, that in absolute sense, they don't even know if what they are saying fits outside of their system. And practically, their system only accounts for a very small amount of people. There are so many people who don't pay any attention to what scientists say. An enormous amount nowadays. Especially those in the third world who wouldn't even know what a scientist said if he said it. All the animals, the insects, the birds, the bees, everybody, they don't care what scientists say. They have their own particular way of understanding. They may say there's nobody on the moon, but the people on the moon couldn't care less what the scientists say. So everybody may have their perception of reality and may glorify themselves in different way because of that perception. But you get nothing but self-praise by this process. Now if you want to sit around and praise yourself day and night, you can do that. You can even sit in front of the mirror and go, oh, you are so nice. You are so intelligent. You are so good. You are so wonderful. You are the greatest. You're me. And I'm wonderful. This is basically all that the materialists do all the time. Every thought, word, and deed is simply them praising themselves. Basically speaking. All these things which they try to accomplish. Otherwise, they're called depressives and crazies and they kill themselves. Either they're glorifying themselves or killing themselves. Basically, there's no in between. If you want to exist in this world, you have to glorify yourself. And if you can't manage to glorify yourself due to some external reason, then you have to kill yourself. Because there's no question of existence unless you can glorify yourself. And basically, this is the material world. One huge speculation that gets you nowhere. This devotees understand. Therefore, they don't speculate. They don't waste their time day and night plan making in a material sense and speculating in a material sense. They simply hear what Krishna says and they say, yes, very nice. And they don't bother speculating. They simply don't bother. It's like one may think this fifth canto, oh, it is completely nonsense. We haven't seen any of these things. Therefore, it cannot be true. But a real devotee simply accepts. And then, later on, he's sure the scientists will figure out, or somebody will figure out, or it will be revealed somehow or another how it is true. And it is always happening that way. Krishna consciousness always comes up with amazing things. These Bhagavatams come up with amazing things. They completely leave the top of your head on the roof. And people are thinking, impossible, impossible. And then later on, they realize, wait a minute, that's fantastic. Of course, yes, of course, their faith increases. But anyway, the point is that anyway it's true, whether you believe it or not. Your belief is the least important thing in this system. It's like Prabhupada always used to say, if you take an aspirin when you have a headache, you'll get better. If you take a pill and the disease is there, you get better. Because the medicine is good, the disease is properly diagnosed, you will get better. That's all. Finished. Whether you believe or not, doesn't matter. When are people going to wake up to the fact that they are not important? Even Voltaire once said, if 40 million people vote that a falsehood is right, that does not make it right. Democratic process is like that. Everybody gets together and defines what is right. That does not make it right. Right is what is right. Wrong is what is wrong. Whether you believe it or not, whether you vote on it or not, or agree on it or not, doesn't matter. Krishna consciousness doesn't depend on you. Fact does not depend on you. Fact depends on Krishna. Whatever Krishna says it is. That's it. Finished. Because he's defining the whole existence. Just like in your computer program, you define all the terms you're going to use. Huh? God is doing so. He's defining all the terms. If he wants to define day as night, then immediately everybody will think day is night. Huh? Of course, he does not play games. Therefore, he does not whimsically change everything upside down from one moment to the next. Because he does not play games. He's not a whimsical supreme. Just like we often display whimsical qualities. Prabhupada used to say, you Westerners disease. You throw up a wall and smash it down. And throw up a wall and smash it down. This is your Westerners. You build and smash, build and smash. So God is not like that, building, smashing, building, smashing. He builds it up, and it's the people who smash it. He doesn't even have to bother with that. And then later on, when it's time, he winds it all up again. Because he does as he likes. He's the supreme independent controller. He defines reality as he likes, and we are simply living within God's defined reality. This is all simply happening because of the dream of Mahavishnu, who's lying in the causal ocean, and all the universes are coming out, and all the existence is going on. It is a very good thing that he does it like this. It's part of the sleep. We are sleeping in the lap of Maya. The Maya, the energy coming from the Lord. We are all sleeping. And part of this sleeping is to think that we're very wide awake. Just like the best dream, as far as the dream goes. The best dream is that one whereupon you are thinking it's not a dream. Yeah? There's no best dream. But the higher quality of one is when you don't understand that you're sleeping. And when you understand you're sleeping, you can't take it seriously. Of course, what do you want to take it seriously for anyway? But the example is so. That you understand this is real. So this is the Supreme Lord's affair. He makes everybody think it's so real. It's so important what I say, what I speculate, what I think. It's meaningless. And you have to have a little humility to understand it. You have to be a little humble. To understand, actually one should be completely humble. Now, of course, who is humble nowadays? Because everybody comes from this nonsense materialistic society, which is breeding puffed up nonsenses. People who don't accept anything, except what they see. And what do they see? Nothing much. Therefore, they have no brain and no knowledge. This is the problem. And when they're faced with somebody who's quoting the Vedic literature, they become envious as anything. Often I've heard when I'm preaching, people just start protesting like anything. How do you know all this? Why are you so sure of yourself all the time? They just can't stand it. Why don't you ever say maybe, perhaps? What's wrong with you? And when you explain, we're just simply repeating what Krishna said. Then they go, blind follower. So then we can immediately shoot back. Then you're just a blind leader. Because you can't see anything either. And you're not following anybody. You're the leader. You're also blind. If that's the criterion, everybody's blind. Either you are a blind follower or a blind leader. Because nobody can see anything with these senses. What can you see? You can't see what's beyond that wall. There's no light out there now. You can't see anything. Your senses are so worthless. And again, the same argument. Even if you were to see, it would be a fully subjective reality that means something only to you itself. You yourself, in your way. You develop meaning by your own self. So fools and rascals, give it up. Give up all this mental speculation. Give up all this idea that you're so marvelous and so intelligent. You're all nonsenses. You're all, me too, we're all nonsenses. We're just Krishna's servants. We're Krishna's puppets. What Krishna wants us to accept, we accept. What Krishna says don't accept, we don't accept. What else is there? Krishna is defining everything. What more is there? Why should we bother, even for a millisecond? Is there any purpose to it? Nothing. There's no purpose. You just accept what Krishna says and nothing more. Can you imagine how happy we will be? No more mental problems. Can you imagine if you didn't have your mind like a big ape on your back, constantly beating you in the head with a coconut? Can you imagine what bliss there would be? What ecstasy. At least it would be so nice that he stops that. That's what it means when you stop speculating. You become immediately blissful, immediately happy. It's the only thing keeping the natural Krishna consciousness from developing. Is this speculation. As soon as you start speculating, you become miserable. Just like I can see in the classes, generally. When everybody's listening to what I say, then they're happy. That means I have to say things simply, because basically everybody gets lost. Then, if I, turn on a little bit, I say things in a very idiomatic way or whatever, and everybody gets lost and they start speculating. As soon as they start speculating, you can see it on the face. The face goes. And then I got to somehow snap the whip and listen again, and then, Krishna consciousness. Yes, very nice. Directly you can see. As soon as there's speculation, misery comes. Direct, right on the line, one thing right after the other. Speculation makes misery. As soon as one speculates, he becomes misery. But how to accept that? Unlimitedly difficult to stop speculating. Because the mind is simply just telling you day and night, look, if you give up your speculation, then what's left for you? Isn't it? What's left for you? The mind tells you that, and then you say, yeah, that's right. I'll become a zombie. I'll become a robot. Oh no! I have to speculate. Okay. Listen to this one! Huh? But actually what happens when you stop speculating? What happens? When you start hearing. And then what happens? Far more better ideas than you ever had start going into your head. Krishna's words. And they make the head just bust open with bliss. Krishna's words, they're nectar. I've never realized this. Because the mind is so busy speculating, the nectar hasn't been able to get in. It's a swirling speculation, so the nectar tries to come in, the mind immediately spits it out the other side. Therefore, one has to just calm that thing down, and then fill it with nectar. And when it's full of nectar, it can't squish around anymore. Hear Krishna's words. Chant Krishna's glory. That's all. No more problems. Finished. Happiness. No need to speculate. You never get anywhere anyway speculating. What does one get from speculation besides trouble? Nothing but trouble. That's all. Finished. Trouble. And as soon as one accepts spiritual authority, he's happy. That's all. It's not that if you just accept anything, you'll be happy. That's the next materialistic nonsense argument. They'll say, yes, if I just accept the television set as authority, I'll be completely happy. But everybody's doing that. No one's happy. Proof. Positive. Proof. Finished. There's no happiness. And as soon as you accept Krishna, you're actually happy. There's a difference right there. The proof is right there. You can think of it whatever you like. You can speculate whatever you like. You can object whatever you like. But the proof is straight there. As soon as you accept Krishna, spiritual bliss. As soon as you speculate, misery. Finished. There's no more need to think about it than that. Of course, this is very radical. It's a very radical thing to say. That actually you can become happy by stop thinking. It's very radical. But that's also not the point. Just by stopping thinking, you don't become happy. Then you can become a vegetable. But you have to fill in thinking about Krishna. What does thinking about Krishna mean? Well, what are you going to think of? Sometimes new devotee says, well, what am I going to think about Krishna? I don't know anything about Krishna. Therefore, hear about Krishna. Always be hearing about Krishna. Or chanting Krishna's name. Then you'll get full of Krishna. Krishna will just come and fill up all those empty spaces which were left from the mental speculation. He'll fill them up with nectar. Guaranteed process, hearing and chanting. The more you hear and chant, the more the satisfaction of Krishna consciousness develops. So it is not a mythology. It is not some Hindu process. It is not some mentally speculated thing a long time ago. No. It is the words of the Supreme Lord. It is the words of the absolute truth. And either you've got no God, and you've got chemicals, or you've got a God who's controlling. And if you have a God, then either he's deaf, dumb, blind, and devoid of senses, or he's senseful, sentient being. And therefore the superior business is to have more. Therefore he has senses. If he has senses, that means he can talk. And if he can talk, that means he can say something. And if he can say something, you can hear it, or somebody can hear it. It can be written down as well. Why not? And if he loves you, why wouldn't he want to help you? Nobody can argue against that. If the Supreme Lord loves you, then why wouldn't he appear in this world? To help you. To give you knowledge. Of course he would. And he did. It's called the Veda. And he personally appeared. It's called Bhagavad Gita. And when we hear it, we say, why should I believe that? Oh, why should you believe anything? Then disbelieve everything and go crazy. Get out of here. You should believe Krishna, that's all. And why not? Because Krishna is God. And you are fools. That's like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master. When Lord Chaitanya, when Prakashananda Saraswati told him, you are just being sentimental, all of this chanting, dancing, what's wrong with you? Why don't you study Vedanta? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, my spiritual master saw that I was a great fool. And I could never understand Vedanta philosophy. Therefore, he told me, give that all up nonsense and just chant Hare Krishna. So since that day, I've been doing that. And I am very ecstatic. In fact, Lord Chaitanya was chanting and dancing like a complete madman in the ecstasy of love of Godhead. And the materialists see that and they think, look at all of that. Indeed, doesn't know how to control himself. And the devotees say, come on, let's join that kirtan party. And they don't care. Devotees don't care what the materialists say. They can say whatever they like. They anyway do that. Who can stop a fool? You'll just go on talking. We know we're fools. And therefore we know we only follow Lord Chaitanya and Krishna. Whatever they say we do. Chanting their holy name brings about the madness of ecstasy of love of Godhead. We say, yes, that's what we want. We want that. Yes, we'll take it. Okay, let's go. Come on. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And the fool sits around and goes, I wouldn't. And the devotee goes, yes, come on. And the materialist goes, This is the difference right there. The materialist goes, the devotee goes, come on. Let's dance. Let's dance. Let's be happy. So we are devotees. So we chant and dance and be happy. And we don't have any problems because we just accept what Krishna says. Therefore, we have incredible knowledge. And the materialists who don't accept and speculate day and night are fools, have no knowledge, have no understanding of logic and reason, and are simply doomed to die. And before they do, they're going to be suffering like anything. And those who are insistent on maintaining that position, may they be happy in that position. And those who are a little bit intelligent and understand they're a fool. Just to even understand you're a fool nowadays, you have to practically be a Nobel candidate. It's the most hard thing to understand. You're a fool. It's the most difficult thing. And as a fool, you should listen to Krishna. Listen to the Supreme Lord. Whatever he says, we do that. So this is a very nice realization that we should come to. And I'm sure it's very easy for a devotee to understand. Because anyway, we devotees can't stand speculating, isn't it? And we're going to give up this speculating as fast as we can, aren't we? And we're going to chant and dance with the ecstasy of love of God, aren't we? Haribol!